In 2017, the Pokemon manga team released the Pokespedia, a 20th anniversary data book featuring tons and tons of cool info about the Pokemon Adventures manga. This included things such as detailed character profiles, an official timeline, and the topic of today's video, an official relationship chart, featuring all the Dex holders up to Sun and Moon, as well as their connections to the characters in the manga. Whether that's being fellow Dex holders, a student and master, or even a couple, it's all here officially, and we're gonna look at everything. As with every good chart, there's a key that we need to go through to understand everything, such as each relation line and symbol. So we'll start with the symbols. We've got Pokédex holders, Mega Evolution wielders, champions, and those who work on the storage systems. Next is the lines. Red lines means love, and depending on if there's an arrowhead or not, it could be one-sided. Blue means friends or a group. Green means master and trainee. Yellow means family. Orange means pretty much family. Light green means a sign of loyalty. Brown means employment, and this will have an arrowhead from the employer to the employee. Light blue means client. Purple means infiltration. Dark blue is for aliases, and lastly pink is for partners. I'll be sure to mention these again, so don't worry too much about remembering what each line means. But with the key explained, let's start with the Kanto Dex holders and their relations to each other. After all, they're the first main characters. First up is red, blue, and green. All of them have Mega Evolution, and all three of them are friends. But surprisingly, yellow isn't counted as their friend, which is of course not the case. And warning, this isn't going to be the only questionable connection. Also, red is not considered a champion since they only consider him a league winner. But I don't care what the manga says, to me he'll always be a champ. That aside, yellow of course has a crush on red. This isn't new and the arrow indicates that it's one-sided. Blue and yellow have a master and student connection, which is true as we saw this in the yellow arc. Green and yellow apparently don't have any connection that they want to know. As for these guys' families, Blue has his grandfather Professor Oak, as well as his sister Daisy. For Green, she's got her parents, but also her pretty much brother Silver, which is really heartwarming to see in official terms, especially considering what they've been through together. Lastly is Yellow and her uncle, the fisherman Wilton. It's kinda crazy that we've never heard or seen Red's family in this story, ever. More connections for these guys is Red and Blue being students of Ultima, which we saw in the Fire Red and Leaf Green arc. Notably though, Green isn't considered her student. The only explanation I can think of is because she never trained inside her place, but even then that's a stretch, because she still taught her how to use Hydro Cannon. Another master is Chuck, who was Blue's first teacher, back when he was still a little kid. That's all for the Dex holders, so now we'll look at some of the other Kanto characters. For example, Professor Oak. He's cousins with Samson Oak from Alola, and surprisingly, to me at least, he's the student of Professor Rowan. I don't know if this is the exact same case in the games, but it sure is here. Bill is the main storage system guy, and he works with his friend Celio from the Sevi Islands. Bill is also in love with Blue's sister, and hey, he might actually have a chance. Next is the gym leaders. The main four are nothing special, outside Misty having a one-sided crush on Red. So that's two of Red's main ships crushed in a second. For Koga, Surge, Sabrina, and Giovanni, they're all of course connected with Team Rocket. Koga has a daughter, being Janine, who takes his place as the Violet City gym leader. Only Giovanni remains a present-day member, but when they were there, they each had their own loyal second in command. Koga had Harry, Sabrina had Al, and Surge had Ken. These guys, despite being Team Rocket members, are low-key goated in their own right. They're pretty much the Team Rocket trio of the manga. Speaking of Giovanni, whilst not listed, he does in fact have access to Mega Evolution, and he's also the father of Silver. Keeping on the Team Rocket train, we have the three beasts, Surd, Orm, and Car. Well, Surd is listed as being an infiltrator, considering she's actually part of Team Galactic. Another section of Team Rocket is the four generals, Petrol, Ariana, Proton, and Archer. And that pretty much wraps up Team Rocket, leaving only one group left for Kanto, and that's the Elite Four. Weirdly, these guys have a green ring around them. Does this mean they're all master and student? I don't think so. I think this just might be a miscoloring, and they're actually just meant to be a group. One thing that isn't a miscolor is Lance being Silver's teacher, as we saw in the Gold, Silver, and Crystal arc. Of course, we can't forget about him also being cousins with Claire. Our final Kanto connection is Bruno being partners with Koga, Will, and Karen, since they're all part of the Johto Elite Four. Next up on the list is Johto, and we're going to start with the Dex holders once again. These three are all friends, as expected, and they each have a parent. Gold has his mum, same with Crystal, whose mum is Mirai. And of course we already talked about Silver being the son of Giovanni. As for the other friendships, we've got Crystal being friends with Yuslin, and him being friends with Morty. There's nothing special to know about the gym leaders other than Price, who is the man behind the Masked Man, this arc's main antagonist. In his group of students, he has Silver, Carl, Sham, Karen, and Will. Missing from yet another list is Green, since technically, she was taught under the man too. And that pretty much summarizes Johto. It's pretty funny that Elm has no connections, since the poor guy is pretty forgettable in every media he's in. We now hop over to Hoenn, and there's tons to go through, starting with their Mega Evolution Dex holders. Here we see our first instance of mutual love, as Ruby and Sapphire both have feelings for each other. So if there's any frantic shipping fans, just know that your ship is 99% canon, if you needed more proof than you already have. Ruby is also friends with Emerald, but Sapphire isn't? I can only assume that they meant their circle as a whole, but at the same time, only Ruby is friends with Wally, since the guy barely met Sapphire on screen. The same can be said for Ruby's other friend, the Mega Evolution champion Steven. This one's a bit of a weird one, since they've actually been on screen with each other many times. Emerald is friends with Todd Snap, but also the entire Hoenn Battle Frontier, which is nice considering their previous beef. And lastly, he's also friends with the Trickmaster. Getting back on track, let's quickly talk about family, as Ruby has his parents and Sapphire is the daughter of Professor Birch. Stephen Stone has his father, and they make the Devoncourt. And on the topic of Mr. Stone, he's friends with Mr. Briney and Drake of the Elite Four. Now we'll talk about the different groups in Hoenn, starting with the gym leaders. They're mostly regular, other than Watson being friends with the Trickmaster, Hoenn being the teacher of Wallace, and Wallace and Winona being the teachers of Ruby and Sapphire. Wallace is also considered a champion, by the way. Another connection for him is his niece, Lycia, who's being crushed on by her rival Chaz. I also want to note that Wallace and Winona don't have any love lines. I know they had a pretty rocky relationship, but it's not that these guys still don't have feelings. The next group is the Battle Frontier, which as I said are all friends with each other, as well as Emerald, but they're also employed by Scott. Another simple one is the Hoenn Story Sisters, Lynette and Bridget. Next is the Draconids, who are all practically family. The main one is Zinnia, who's infiltrated both Team Plasma and Aqua, as well as having access to Mega Evolution. Jinga, Renza, and Tomatoma also have Mega Evolution, but we only saw Jinga use it. And lastly for Hoenn is their evil teams, starting with Magma. They have their leader Maxi, who has Mega Evolution and is followed by his 3 admins, Courtney, Tabitha, and Blaze. On the other side of things is Aqua, with Archie as their leader, who also has Mega Evolution. He's followed by Shelly, Matt, and Amber. Where Archie stands out though is his secret identity as Gao Hideout, the main antagonist of the Emerald arc. Next thing to note is that Blaze and Amber can both use Mega Evolution, after inheriting the Keystones and Megastones from their leaders. And last thing is that Tabitha, Courtney, Matt, and Shelly are actually codenames. And all 4 of them are replaced by new characters who take these names, which is a simple way of saying that they want to use their Auras designs. This is for the best though, as Courtney and Tabitha had happy endings. And that makes all of Hoenn, so we can now move on to Sinnoh. The 3 Dex holders are all friends with each other, but Diamond and Pearl are partners due to their comedy act. These 3 also have their own family members. Diamond has his mom, Joanna, Pearl has his dad, Palmer, and Platinum has both her parents, Mr. Berlitz, and her mom, Yanisei Berlitz. Speaking of her dad, he's the student of Professor Rowan, and he's not the only one. As mentioned, there's Oak, but also Sycamore and Cynthia. The only friend of the Dex holders is Platinum's friend Looker, who's a member of the International Police. Although, he has his own loyalty to Inspector Blake. But that's Unova stuff, so now we'll go back to Sinnoh, where we'll talk about the gym leaders, who don't have any connections to each other, which is kind of weird, since these guys actually work together as a team, like the Hoenn gym leaders, who also don't have any special connection. This is so odd because we actually see Candace and Malie hanging together. That aside, they still do have some connections, with Crash Awake being the teacher of Pearl, Byron being the dad of Roark, and Volkner being friends with Flynn. Speaking of which, we'll check the Elite Four and Champion next, who also don't have anything special going on, other than Cynthia having a grandma and Flynn having a younger brother in Buck. The Battleground group exists and also does the Battle Frontier, but there's nothing special to add about them, so our last group is the Evil Team Galactic. Which is literally the bare minimum. The only special person is Cern, but we already talked about her, so time for Unova. Now this one's a funny one. The Dex holders here are all friends, apart from Blake, who counts as being an infiltrator to the group, all due to his work as an international police inspector. Other notable things are Black being the employee of White, and Whitley having a mother and pretty much grandfather in Sage Rude. If you're an agency shipping fan, you'll notice the knack of red around this group, and don't worry, you're not alone, as I and many others think it's weird how these two don't have any romantic feelings. But as I mentioned, this thing can clearly be wrong. Just like Red, Black is also not a champion, and neither is N or Iris, but for her it's for a different reason which I'll explain later. Looking at the group's friends, we have Black and his childhood friends, Cheren and Bianca, and whilst not exactly friends, Blake has Hugh and Leo. Leo also has a crush on Hugh's little sister. Our next group of Unova is the Nerds, otherwise known as the Professors. Juniper has her father Cedric, as well as her uni friend Fennel, who has a little sister named Amanita, who does the managing of Unova's storage system. Next is the Gym Leaders. Once again, nothing special, outside Lenora having a husband in Hawes, and Iris pretty much having a grandfather in Drayden. The Elite Four and Champion also have nothing special. Because Black and White 2 wasn't finished at this time, Benga doesn't exist here, which really puts into perspective how long this arc took to finish. Ingo and Emmett are also here, and whilst not listed, it's evident that they're twins. More interestingly though, these two are also the teachers of White, due to her training on the battle subway. Lastly is Team Plasma, who consists of pretty much the main members, nothing special, but N isn't listed as Getsis' son, which probably whilst not intentional, makes sense, because Getsis doesn't really view N as his son anymore. That wraps up Unova, so now we can move on to Kalos. The Dex Orders here both have Mega Evolution, as well as a bunch of friends. Firstly though, White has her mother, Grace. The duo have their childhood friends, Tierno, Trevor, and Shauna, also friends in the Elite Four, as well as their Mega Evolution wielding champion, Diantha. The Gym Leaders aren't listed as their friends, which makes sense for some of them, but for Clement, Viola, and Karina, they actually spend a decent amount of time with them. Before I get onto the Gym Leaders though, I want to say that Professor Sycamore has two students, Dexio and Stina. After that is the Gym Leaders, who are all friends with each other. Clement has his sister Bonnie, Viola has her sister Alexa, and Karina has her grandfather and teacher Gherkin, and both of them can Mega Evolve. I'm not sure if X and Y had finished by this time, as Gherkin should realistically be a teacher of all of the main 5. Going back to the Elite 4, all of them are friends except Malva, who's only their partner, but funnily enough, that's still more of a connection than the other Elite 4s. Our second to last group is Cassius's. He's the storage system guy for Kalos, and he has a family-like relationship to Emma. Emma is also the girl behind Essentia. Because of this, she's an employee of Xerosic. Speaking of which, let's talk about Team Flare, which includes the scientists, Malva, and their leader Lysander, who can also Mega Evolve. Now we have our last region, Alola. Since the arc is pretty new at this time, there isn't much to say. Sun and Moon are the Dex Orders, and they're both friends, but Moon is also Sun's client, since he's helping her complete her job. Other than that, they're not connected to anyone else. I'm assuming at this point, it hadn't been decided that Moon would be connected to the Berlitz household. Another group is Kukui and his wife Burnett, and he's also got the alias as the Mars Royale. There's the Island Kahunas and Harla's grandson Hal, the Trial Captains, and lastly Team Skull, which at this point is just Guzma, but he's friends with Gladion, who has a sister Lily. And with that, that's every relationship and connection officially listed in the official chart. Did I mention this was official? Well, even with that being the case, there's a ton of questionable things, so despite its official tagline, I take it with a grain of salt in some things. What's your opinion on this chart, and what changes would you make? Let me know in the comment section down below, and be sure to subscribe for more Pokemon manga content. With all that said and done, thank you all for watching, and take care.